Good evening. Good evening, y'all. How is everyone doing? Oh, it's Sunday. Such a beautiful week. Oh, thank God, thank God. Hi, I'm Renee Williams. I'm a recovering addict who continues to, and we continues to still make it. We didn't use. Get all this hair on my face, I'll be all right. Look, hey, Auntie, how you doing? It is Sunday. He took us through another week, and I know God is real because we can see that He's real, and I thank Him. I thank Him that we are clean and sober, clean. We didn't use. I thank Him that somebody came into treatment. Somebody got some help. Somebody's in treatment trying to get some help. And for that, I am so grateful. I wanted to give a shout out to all the ones who celebrating clean time, all the ones who celebrating they clean time this month of May. And I thank God for, I'm proud of you. I must tell y'all, I am very proud of y'all, because people think sometimes that being clean is deserving, but it is. And they also think that it's real hard, but it's not, But I thank God that He give me something to strive for. And for that, we are grateful. We're going to open up a silent moment to the God of our understanding. My God, celebrating clean time. So congratulations to you all who celebrating clean time. And also I wanted to give a shout out to the 12-step of Anonymous program, for keeping everything in order and giving us a destination of what we're supposed to be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. I also want to give out a shout out to the therapists and the counselors and who go through their thing. Don't think because they're a counselor and a therapist that they don't go through something, but they do. But thank God they don't bring it to work with them. They will include some of the things that they're going through just to let you know that they are human and they go through too. So I thank God for that. I thank God for keeping the ones that's still here on earth that lost a loved one, like I did to the addiction of drugs. And for that, I am so grateful. I'm so grateful that, when we lost our loved ones, we still continue to move on. And whether we hurting or we had them bad days, I don't want to forget the ones who have lost loved ones, sons, daughter, mother, father, cousin, nieces, nephews. I don't ever want to forget you all. You all are important too, because you help deal with the loved one that was in the addiction. And so I thank God. Thanks, Raphael. Hey, Raphael, how you doing? And so I just wanted to just give a shout out to the peoples that I think about and the peoples that I care about, and anybody that's in recovery, anybody that's struggling or trying to find their way through some kind of addiction, and especially through drug addiction. I hate that disease. I tell people I hate that disease. I watch what the disease done to me. I watch what it done to other people. I watch how it took a lot of my friends out. I mean, my special friends that is not here, that was here last year, that is not here this year. And so, God, I hope that you continue to put your hands on them like you did on all of us so we could get ourselves together. Because this is a deadly disease, and to be honest, it can be a silent disease. Because sometimes when we deal in our using, we don't tell nobody. Well, I didn't. I can speak for me. I didn't. tell nobody that I was struggling with the disease of an addiction, you know, and it don't get no better. What a day. What a day. Shout out to everybody that told somebody that they loved them. Shout out to you all. That's very important that people hear that you say that you love them. It's very important that you always have a connection with someone that you know that's genuine, worthy to be loved, or need to be in love, that want to be in love. So, shout out to y'all too. Hey, we are on step. This is one of my favorite. I say that about all steps, but this is one of my favorite steps. Step 3. We made a decision to turn our will over to the care of God as we understood there. You know, this a step that was real scary for me. If you go back and look at what I talked about before, this step was real scary for me because I had to make a decision. I had to get to know who God really, really, really deeply was. I had to get butt naked truthful. I can remember. Let me go to step 3. Step 3. You know, it says, you know, step 3 is about surrendering. That's what I like about step 3. Step 3, from 1 to 2, is going to take you into another area of your life where you're going to learn how to surrender to God, the God of your understanding. And you're going to and have a willingness to try something new. And that's scary. That's scary for somebody that's in recovery, that you just now getting to know the steps, and here you out step 3, and you closer to God than you ever been, or you getting closer to God than you ever thought in this step. Because this step is all about developing trust. This step is caring about yourself. We have to learn about the principles of commitment. It's tied to this step. That's what I like about this step. Commitment is tied to this step. Spirituality, faith and trust, you know, surrendering. Remember I told you I love that word. That word surrendering is very awesome because you're going to go through something to surrender. And this is what this step is about. This step is about you have to learn turning over your control for the rest of your life. People say, why I got to turn over? Why I got to turn over my control the rest of my life? Well, simple. Hey, Stella, how you doing, baby? Simple. We tried it our way, and it wasn't working. So that's when step 3 come in and let you know you got to do some changes in your life. And them changes can be very scary. I don't know about nobody else. I know when I got on step 3, I stayed on step 3 for a long, long time. These are steps you can read about them and kind of study about them. But you're making some changes in your life. So you're going to stay on this, on these changes. You're going to try to understand step 3. It says because we make decisions every day. We make decisions every day and we don't stick to them. Or some of the decisions that we made took us to a dark area in our life that causes us pain and unremarkable stress for me, you know. And this step right here, you know, when we made a decision. How do you make decisions? Well, you only make decisions when you've been hurt or tired or broken. You know, when you are, excuse me, y'all, could somebody bring me some water out of the refrigerator? Give me a water out of my refrigerator. We made a decision, you know, and that's not easy. Don't nobody know that this step ain't easy. Because this step finna bring you some changes that you really been needing. You really get an understanding how this step works. We made a decision. Okay, what decision What decision, thank you. What decision, excuse me, y'all. What decision did we make? Well, I didn't know at the time. All I know, I didn't want to use. I knew that. I knew I didn't want to use. But I had to make some decision that I haven't made in a long time. Turning it over, surrendering, talking to a God of my understanding, asking him for help without nobody else knowing that I needed help. I was at that point when didn't nobody know I was using, didn't nobody know I was struggling, didn't nobody know I was spending my money on drugs and alcohol. Didn't nobody know that at all. Didn't know. And it was when we are used to doing something our way, and then we be introduced to the 12 Steps of Narcotics Anonymous program. Well, hey Annette Dean, how you doing, baby? Then we're gonna be introduced to some things that we ain't gonna even want to face. You know, I didn't want to face step 3. I didn't want to surrender. I didn't want to turn over nothing. I wanted to keep control. I wanted to keep the control that's devastating my life. I wanted to keep the decision that I make, even though I knew I was broken. That's how sick the drug is. That's how sick that the drug costs our mind and the way to think. You know, dirty thinking comes with using drugs. You know, and I know that because I've been there, done that. And we found ourselves not wanting the responsibility of deciding on things for ourselves. I had to face that. You know, I found myself not even wanting to do that. I found myself not even want to have the responsibility of deciding and making decisions like this and this step, because I was so scared I was going to mess up. Like my sponsor said, okay, be scared, but don't stay there. You know, I had the most terrific sponsor, and I've had her over 30 years. I've had her 35 years. And that's been beautiful to me. That I didn't have to get a different sponsor. I didn't have to find another sponsor. I'm going to throw this in this step because you're going to need a sponsor dealing with these steps. That's why they suggest. They can't tell us what to do. They can suggest that we get a sponsor. Somebody that's going to help us work through the steps. Somebody that's going to allow us to speak freely, allow us to feel what we need to feel, allow us to go through the steps, to understand the steps and how the steps work in our lives, and what can we bring to the step other than the step bringing some things to us. And that's why I love my sponsor. You know, it's very important in this step. Suggest we turn our will and our lives. That's what they suggest us to do, turn our will and our lives over to the care of God, you know, as we understand Him. And I had to ask myself when I got to this step, well, what do that... I mean, I understand y'all want me to have a relationship with God. I understand that. But why do it says, you know, I asked this question, why do it says or suggest that we turn our will and our lives? Because, see, when we up under our own will in our own life, look how many decisions and look how many things we done messed up and did. Just look at it. Look at it. We go back in our life. We know we wasn't no parent. Look, I'm going to speak for me. I know I wasn't no perfect parent. Because being a parent don't come with don't have structure. It don't come in with tell you what to do. It can suggest us what to do. But parenting, you have to learn on your will. You have to learn. You can learn by taking suggestions from other people. Well, this is how I felt about this step. You know, when the God of our understanding, when we get to this step, turning our will and our lives over to the care of God, you know, then some of us feel like, you know, I'm going to mess up. I know I did. I feel like I was going to mess up. because all my life I've been messing up. Dibbing and dabbing and lying and playing and cheating and all that. So when I got to this, I was so terrified, and you hear me speak this in my other broadcast. I was so terrified because I had let myself down all the time. All the time I left myself down. I didn't want nobody to tell me what to do. I didn't want nobody to even suggest to me what to do. So, I had to learn how, I had to get a connection with the God of my understanding so he can help guide me. Then I needed my sponsor in this step. I needed my sponsor for all my steps. I had a good sponsor that worked with me to broke it down, to tell the butt-naked truth. And it says it is very important in this step. By the time we get to this step, we have identified with something. We have identified with something from 1 and 2. But this step, what I love about this step, it says we made a decision. Now we at a point now, something done changed, something different. We. So that mean I ain't by myself. That mean that if it's a we thing, that mean everybody had to get to this point. Everybody had to get to this point to turn our lives and our will over to the care of God as we. So a lady asked me a question when we was at a meeting. And this ain't no lie. We was at a meeting. And when I got up and went to go to the bathroom, she said, well, I've been clean for 6 months. And she said, it says, turn our will and our lives. I was reading that. And we was on that step. And she said, and I was reading that. And she said, but I ain't never believed in God. She said, I just ain't never believed in God. I said, okay, so what are you asking me? And she said, well, how can I turn my will over to the care of God and I don't believe in God? How do I work this step? I said, boy, that's a good one. I've heard people say they atheists and they don't believe in God, but she said she didn't know God, she didn't believe in God. So reading this step along with some of her friends, she didn't understand this step, And like I told her, the best of my ability, you have to want to learn how to introduce yourself to God. You got to learn how, well, that means you ain't been broken. I said, well, can I ask you a question? You ain't been broken? You ain't been hurt? You mean you been using drugs and you didn't struggle? You didn't make bad decisions? You didn't realize that you still here? I had to break it down to it. You ain't still here? Who you think woke you up this morning? She said, I did. I said, okay. Who you think put you to sleep last night? She said, I did. I said, who gave you the ability? Oh, she started something in me. I said, who gave you ability to still have your legs and arms and you can talk to me? I said, you did that too? And she laughed. I said, right. You asking me a question. You came to me to ask you a question. And see, that reminded me of step 3. You asking me a question about you don't believe in God, you don't know God. But see, in this step, you have to learn how to introduce yourself to God and let God work with you. You have to learn to be honest to God. Only way God can help you, help yourself is you got to be honest in this step. This is an honest step for me. Because that means I'm surrendering to the God of my understanding. I ain't surrendering to you. I ain't surrendering to nobody else. I ain't surrendering to the man I was in love with at that time. I ain't surrendering. This step is about me and God. And this step is right here is about turning something over. Hey, Dex, how you doing, baby? Turning our will and our lives over to the care of God. And when this lady asked me that, and I broke that down to her, I said, Now, who you think? You at a meeting, baby, and that's good. I'm glad to have met you. And I don't know why you picked me out of everybody else in the room, but since you picked me, I'm the rawest person that's going to give you the realest answer. I can't make you love God. I can't make you talk to God. I can't make you know the God of my understanding. All I can suggest to you, try to get to know God yourself. You ain't never failed an ex and said, are you a person that never said, God, please help me stop using? She said no. That was deep for me. I said, well, who did you say? I heard you say you overdosed and you almost died. You didn't call on no one? She said, no. I wish my mother was here, but she was gone. I said, okay. See, now's a important time in your life that you got to know who they talking about in the 12-step analysis program. In this 12-step, we talk about God. She said, who is God? I said, well, you know what? I know it's a God because I was raised up in the house where God was the most important one in all of our lives in that house. I said, and my mother used to talk about God all the time and tell us that, we have to respect God and we have to learn to listen to God in her ear, in our ear. And she literally was asking questions that she really wanted to know, And the only thing when we just talking for 15 or 20 minutes, but do y'all know that girl still talks to me? Do you know that girl still texts me or asks can she talk to me? Because somebody's struggling because they want to know who God is because they ain't never know that God was in their life. And I told her before I left, God been in your life since you were born. He know every string or piece of hair on your head. You're going to have to learn to get to know God like I had to learn to get to know God. And this step is all about turning our will. You ain't never told God I surrender. And she like, no, what is that? I'm like, oh, wow. And this girl, she just don't know. She been living to use and used to live without knowing who God was but the step is teaching her how to surrender. But she got to learn to surrender to who? That's what she was asking me. Who is God? Why do I got to surrender? Well, if you don't think you got to surrender, then why are you here at the meeting? Why you here? Why you here at the meeting if you don't think you need to surrender? Don't you need somebody to help you stop using? Don't you need to talk to somebody and get to know? I said, but this step we made, I like this step because this step didn't tell us we had to. It didn't tell us we got to. It says we made a decision. We made a decision to turn our will over to the God, to the care of God. Well, why did we, as we understand Him, but how did we get to that point? Why do we think that we needed to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God? Because if my will and turning my life is over to God, then I know I'm going to be okay. I know He going to work things out for me. I know I'm going to be okay. So turning my will and my life over to the care of God, see, I can't turn it over to somebody I don't know. I cannot turn my will and life over to a God that I don't know. I cannot do it. I know this God. I know this man. This man has been very good to every last one of us that comes up on this site that's all over the world. This man had gave us the benefit of doubt. When other people hold us to everything, they don't want to forgive us. They don't want to fool with us. They don't even like us, So I know this man is everything to me, because even when I lied to him or told him that I'm going to quit and I kept using, he still believed me. He still believed me. So turning our will over to the care of God is important. Because if you don't turn your will and your life over to the care of God, you still finna be messing up. You still finna be doing it your way. You still finna be popping pills, lying, cheating, shooting up, pretending. You're gonna be doing all that. That's what it means turning our will and our lives up to the God of our understanding. You know, and it's all about this. To me, this step is about being honest. It's about giving up our will, surrendering. I acknowledge you, God. You took me through the storms when I was going through the storms, using back and forth every day, every day. I used every day. Y'all, excuse me if you see me wiping my mouth. It's a medication that I take that make my mouth really dry. I don't owe y'all no explanation, but I just wanted you to know. That's when you see me doing that, it's a certain medicine that I take for the kidney. And so when we find ourselves in a position to where we don't know, that's why they say you have to have a sponsor. That's why they say you have to take suggestions. That's why they say you have to read instruction, you know, and reading instructions help us find the answers and walk us through it. And, you know, and in this step, each one of us will have to come to some kind of conclusion. You hear me? About what we think God means. See, that's what this step's saying. What do you think that God means? We gotta come to some kind of conclusion to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. So what do you think that what God means? And I was stuck. I was stuck for a minute until I went to till I went to start thinking. Till I went to start thinking, I'm like, okay, I can tell you what God means. He gave me the will and the knowledge to know that something is wrong. I'm in this disease and I can't stop. And ain't nobody else helped me figure it out. Ain't nobody else gave me the key answer. Ain't nobody else did enough for me to tell me how to stop, because didn't nobody know I was using. So I had to come to this. What do God mean? Well, I always heard about this man. I always heard that he would be there when ain't nobody else there. I always felt this man when I was using, when I was a praying addict, be puffing and huffing and still praying to God, because I was so scared of God, because I was a disappointment. We become a disappointment to ourselves and to God. But God don't think like we think. So when it says we come to some kind of conclusion, to know what God means, and if you don't know what God means, then you ain't going to be able to turn your will and your life over to the care of Him anyway. So I realized, okay, that was cool. That was cool. Because, see, I know when I was getting ready to take my own life, He sent somebody to help me. Oh, I know when I was in a car accident, He took somebody and brought somebody to help me. I know at the deep of the night when I was struggling with my own mind, He still was talking to me in the middle of the wee bee hours. Man, can't nobody tell me that. When that young girl says she don't know who God is, I'm like, where you been? Because God been in our lives from the day we was born, even making bad decisions, good decisions, terrible decisions, on death row, on deathbed, you know, and all kind of abuses, all kind of addiction, you know. So when they ask me, when I look at that, say we had to come to some kind of conclusion, and they right. Because why you going to turn your will and your life over to the care of God if you don't know who God is or what God means to us? He everything. He know how to fix. He know how to manage. And He know how to change some things in our lives. So I was glad to know about God, but I love God. And this step right here turned me right back to God, but in a different way. Because I had to sit down and get honest and surrender and look at it. I had to keep looking at that step. I'm like, man, this step right here ain't no joke. Because we got to make some decision that we ain't never made. And this is a scary decision, because if I make this decision to turn my will and my care over to God, then I ain't no longer got no control. That's what it tried to tell the brain, the thing in me, that I ain't got no control. And then I had to say to myself, well, I didn't have no control no way. Because everything I was touching and messing up, I wasn't in control. Everything that got wacko in my life, I was just doing things, making all kind of decisions, and hurting peoples and hurting myself, and beating myself up with disgust because I couldn't get it together. I kept making mistakes. I kept getting in the wrong decisions. And so when I looked at that and said, we got to get to a conclusion of what God means. And if we don't come to that conclusion, how you going to turn your will and your life over to somebody that you don't even know what he stands for? You don't even know. So, only part I had with this step was disappointing God. I knew about God all my life. Did that stop me from using? I kept using. Even though I knew him, I kept using. I kept taking pills. I kept doing everything. So when I looked at this step, it said, turn your will in your life over to the care of God as you understood him. Y'all want me to surrender just totally? And in my mind, corrupted mind from the drug use, it would tell me, well, then if I turn my will and life over to the care of God, then I ain't got no control. And then the dumb part of the brain had to let me know to the right part of the brain, girl, you ain't never had no control no way. You ain't never had no control, because if you did, you would never got on drugs in the first place. So that let you know I ain't had no control. But I liked this step because this step made me identify with truth. It made me understand what this step really means. Why do we turn our will and life over? Because once we turn our will and life over to care of God, he got us covered. He gonna show us. He gonna tell us. He gonna alert us. He gonna let us be aware when something is wrong. He gonna open your mind to everything. Your mind will change. How to look at people. How to not deal with people. How to look at situations. How to not try to fix, manage, and control every situation. Because every situation, hey, Veron, that's my grandson. Oh my God, hey, Veron. And we had to learn that. Turning our will over to the care of God. Well, when I looked at this step and they said we made a decision, well, we came to a part. When I went from step 1 to step 2, I realized something different. I realized in step 1 that I ain't got no control over drugs. Only control I got is making a decision not to keep using. Because eventually it's going to kill me. Eventually it's going to start doing some things. I love you, Veron. It's going to start doing some things. I love this step. This step let me know that, when we try to manage and control and fix things, even in relationship, even in broken relationship, even with our kids, trying to understand our kids, and we go through the hurt, and I like this step right here, because see, when we surrender, that's why I learn how when things start happening in my life, even with my kids, even with my grandkids, even with friends and associated, I learned how to just sit back and shut up. Because see, I had a abusive mouth. When you hurt me, I take it very personal. Because you know how I feel. If I tell you or show you I love you and you hurt me. And that's why this step was meant so much to me. To where I had to learn how to sit back. Right today, no matter, I don't care how long you've been clean. I don't care if you've been clean 30 years or 40 years, you still gonna go through some mind-changing things. You know, when we still get hurt, you know, the only difference with hurt now for me is I learned to turn my will and my care over to God to where I just do nothing. Y'all think I'm lying. I do nothing. When me and my daughter was into it for 5 months, 6 months, I didn't do nothing. I just every now and then told God, you told me if I turn my life and my will over to you, you'll take care of it. And I'm holding him accountable for that. And he did just that. So this step is a powerful step because you got to know who God is before you turn your will in your life. Your will. What is your will, Renee? My understanding. What is your will, Renee? Letting go. What is your will, Renee? Can't manage and control and fix everything. So I'm moving out the way. That's my will. My will is to move out the way and let God tell me and show me what to do. You know, this was such a powerful step for me. I couldn't lose after learning how this step worked in my life because I never had nothing to teach me discipline. I never had nothing to show me accountability. You know, we was always spoiled. We had stuff. We did stuff. You know, mama spoiled us to death. You know, she didn't go out and buy no $300 or $400 pair of tennis shoes. But honey, she gave us something that most kids didn't have, and that was some loving and understanding. And I'm so grateful for Miss Peggy for that. She brought us up to where we had to know who God was in our house. But sometimes we leave God. Sometimes we put God on a shelf. And forget about all the danger zones, all the things that he took us through, all the times when I could have died or killed myself. I didn't want to forget about it no more. So therefore, I want to turn my will and my life. You know, if I put my life in your hand, that's like they say, oh, get you some good insurance. The best insurance you can get. God is my insurance on my life. I can't speak for nobody else. And it took me a long time to get to this point. Putting love in the wrong places. Or letting people do things to me and I take that hurt and I hurted it in. Well, I was tired of hurting. That's why I wanted to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. As I understood him, me and him had such a personal relationship. When y'all get a personal relationship with God, you're going to be looking for God to give you all the answers and the things that you need to help you along the way. And that's how I am today. You know, one of my children said to me yesterday, we had a big, huge Roman sale. And my children said to me, Mama, you don't let a lot of friends come in your house. Oh, no. Kids are curious. We don't see you having a lot of friends. And I was shocked that they asked me that because you think kids being kids, they don't see stuff like that. And I was like, no. And I got one girl, she just going to keep asking you questions until she run out of asking you questions. She said, why? I said, because everybody ain't worthy to come through these doors. See, that door right there, I had to work hard to pertain and understand who I connect with and deal with to let them come into my door. Because everybody's spirit ain't right. Oh, like the pastor said, your spirit got it. That kind of spirit. Some people you let in, you can be letting in sinners. That's why I fell in love with sinners. If you invite them in and they sinful peoples and they despiteful peoples and they hurtful peoples and you let them in, well, whatever you get, you're going to have to figure it out because you let them in. You invited them. So you're right. I don't let everybody come in my space. Really, I'm a loner. And I'm okay being that way because everybody else I had to buy. That's why that's why I wanted God to turn, that's why I wanted to turn my will and life over to the God of my understanding, from every friendship, every person, every relationship. I didn't do pretty good by him. Yeah, I got married 3 times, so what? Anybody can get married. Was I happy? No. No. Why did I do it? Well, I can't tell you why. That's the only thing I can tell you. That's why I'm turning my will and my life over to the care of God, because I was a different person then than I am now. And now, if I get married, I can tell you why I want to get married. I can tell you the reason why I want to get married. I can tell you what I need. I can do better in that area now than I could years ago. I can do better. So turning our will and our lives over to the care of God is the best thing I've ever done. I stay to myself. That way I ain't got nobody got to lie on me. I ain't got to be talked about. And, people still talk about me anyway. Because, see, I walk with my head up. I used to walk with my head down. But, see, when you come into recovery and you change the way you live and the way you walk and the way you do things, you don't walk with your head down no more. I have nothing. That's why I turned my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him. Because as I understood him is that, Renee, I am carrying you. So, therefore, you don't have to walk with your head down no more. None of y'all have to walk with your head down. Whatever I did in the past, it don't assume me to where I'm at in the present, because I let go. When I turned my will and my life over to the care of God, he forgave me for everything I've done. If you want to hold on to what I didn't do or what I should have done, I can't help you, sir. I can't help you, ma'am. I ain't there no more. I ain't in that situation no more. That was the old ugly me. But when God come into your life and you turn your will over to the care of God, then, man, I mean, you different. You can't be the same. Turning your will over to the care of God, it's about change. It's about wanting to be different, wanting to be better. Why do you think people struggle so hard? Why do you think all the people that in the music, auxiliary, all the people that's in the movies, they struggle with drugs too? And they struggle to be better. They struggle to understand that they can do better. And that's what I like about this step. The only thing that is essential is what we begin to search for. That will allows us to further understand our recovery must continue. I know my recovery has to continue, because if I stop, I'm messed up. I'm gonna go back to the same brokenness. I'm gonna go back to the same using. I'm gonna go back collecting the same kind of peoples that I had. I'm gonna go back and pick up all the ugly things that was once comfortable for me. I can't do that today. We strive for something when we stay clean. We strive to be better. Can't nobody get perfect. But we strive to get better. And when we got to that point and we made a decision, we did some things. You might not give yourself all the credit that you deserve, but I do. Because anytime you can change the way you used to be, that very negative, ugly person, that person that always harbor resentment, that person that didn't want to forgive, that person that didn't want to let go of something that bothered her for many years, and now you're a different person, because the only way I became different is because I turned my will and my care over to God as we. I had to realize sometimes in this step, I got overwhelmed so much. I got overwhelmed that our values, I didn't know how to follow something good. I didn't know how to to stay on something that was going to be positive and good for me. So it got me overwhelmed. I was scared I was going to do something wrong. I was scared I was going to make some bad decisions. I was scared I wasn't going to follow up. Look how many years I have been promising God I'm going to stop using. I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to stop stealing. I'm going to stop lying. I'm going to stop prostituting. I'm going to stop doing all them things. Look how many years. And so then imagine I turn my will over to the care of God as I understand Him. But I had to get to know God. I couldn't just turn it over. I really wanted to know this man that everybody talk about. This man that my mama been knowing all these years and translated it to me, Selena and Phil. I wanted to know. You know, our values of our hearts and our soul is important. And when we start knowing that it's a God of our understanding that's going to help us and guide us and show us and teach us, it's a blessing. Like I said, I don't take nothing for granted. Because let me tell you something. If you tell me you was the perfect parent, and I tell you that I was, then I ain't talking to you no more. I don't want to talk to you no more. Because I know ain't nobody been no perfect parent. Because what that tells me, if you've been a perfect parent, you didn't make no mistakes, you didn't make no bad decisions, you didn't do nothing wrong, you didn't say nothing wrong, so I don't want to talk to you no more. No, that means you perfect. Because all of us have made some mistakes in our life that when it came to parenting skills. We all have made some mistakes of how we should have been or what we should have done. I ain't going to tell you I was a perfect parent, but I wasn't no bad parent. The decisions that I made could have been better. The way I handled things could have been better. But sometimes I'm glad that I had to learn that way. Because it would have never gave me that connection with the God of my understanding. I never would have wanted to surrender and ask God to take all of me. Take every bad part of me and make me whole again, God. I need that. I need to, if I'm going to work this program and they say this program is an honest program, then I want to do it right. I got to do it right, God, because, see, I mess up. If I find myself that this program is not an honorable program and an honesty program, then I ain't going to work it right. Somebody bring me a piece of tissue paper, please. I ain't going to work it right. What areas in my life? What areas in your life? That's the most difficult. What was the areas in your life and my life? That was the most difficult part to turn over. What area? All of them. All of them. But they said the most difficult ones. Okay. The most difficult part in my life when I came in was understanding why I think and hold on to stuff so long. To where it crippled me. Why when somebody hurt me and then I tell them I forgive them, but I really didn't. I held on to it until it crippled me. And then another most thing that was hard for me to get over was the addiction. That was the most. To turn over. I can't smoke no weed. Because, see, I didn't want to stop using cocaine and pills and then keep smoking weed. You know, it says when you turn your will in your life over to the care of God as we understand Him, we can't do none of that no more. Another part it was hard for me to turn over was prostitute. What you say? Prostitute. Prostituting don't mean you got to be on the street where everybody can see you. I can prostitute in the garage. I can prostitute at the hotel. I can prostitute in my kitchen. Prostitution was very hard to let go. Very hard. So us as parents, ain't none of us been the perfect parent. And that was hard. They said to turn over, what was the most horrible thing? The regret of not being able to be the perfect parent. I sabotaged some stuff to where it caused me pain later on. To where some of my kids didn't forgive you. You know, I got a daughter that's very much just like me. But I had to let her go so God can work with her like he worked with me. That was the most addiction, prostitution, and the hurt that I caused to my kids. Because see, kids are just like ours. They don't know how to let go of things too. They grow up holding and remembering and carrying resentments and don't want to let go. But see, in this life, when you turn your will and your life over to the care of God, you can't, it's no longer yours. None of that is mine no more. I turn my will and my life over to the care of God. So it ain't none of mine no more. You're not going to hurt me like you did before. I'm not going to hurt you like I did before. Ain't nobody perfect. Nobody has been a perfect parent. Nobody. Because parents made mistakes even before they had the babies. And they brought some of the same mistakes. So when I turned my will, hey, Lorraine, my best friend on here, hey, Lorraine. She just had surgery. God bless you, girl. So you have to turn your will and our lives over, because I know that's devastating for me when I tell y'all that, because, I used to wouldn't tell nobody I wasn't the best parent. Figuring I was going to be judged and talked about. I don't care. Because me not being the best parent made me be the best person I can be now. Turning my will and my life over to the care of God. We have to fight to make better choices, and our self-will, and not get isolated. See, we can get in recovery and just still get isolated. I don't get isolated because that means I'm in a place that I shouldn't be if I'm going to be isolating myself again. So I don't do that no more. My will and turning over my will, and that means I surrender. That means I can't hold it no more. That means I don't even want it no more, God. You take all of it. I'm tired of carrying stuff from 5 years, 15 years, 20 years. I'm so done hating peoples instead of loving peoples, and it take a lot of energy to hate. It take a lot of energy to hurt people. It take a lot of energy to hurt other people. So I'm surrendering. I turn my will and my life over to you, because you know about my life. A lot of people don't know about my life, but God, you know about my life. So guess what? I'm gonna put my life in your hand. I'm gonna turn everything over. That way I know I'm covered. I know you're gonna make sure you come into my life when some things is that I need some help with, and you will help me out. At some point of our recovery, our alliance with the higher power, with God, it's got to work. It's gonna work. Sometimes taking back our will and our lives, we take it back. I ain't took mine back. I don't even want it back. I want things to be fine. Turning my will and turning my life over to the care of God was the best thing for me to do. Instead of you piss me off and I stay there and find a reason to argue with you or fight with you, I can remove myself. Oh, I'm good at that too. You'll look up and I'm gone. I ain't got the energy to try to deal with you, and then deal with my mind too, and deal with the ugliness trying to come back in and bring out that old Renee. I'm gone. And I know you ain't gonna miss me, because you was getting the best of me. But some I don't even care about people no more. I only care about people that are trying to do something about themselves. I love every person. Let me contradict that because I didn't say that right. I love people. You read anything about Capricorn, I love everybody. I love peoples. But I don't like people that being false and fake and that's grinning in my life, in my face, and I can see that. See, that's a character defect that I used to have. And I don't want it. I turned that wheel over to God. Everything, my character defect, my way of thinking, my procrastination, my all the ugly things. You know, my impulsiveness. I turned all that over back to God. I don't want it. I don't want it no more. The principle of commitment is tied to step 3. Step 3 is about committing, surrendering, turning it over, developing trust, turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. Well, if I turn my will and you turn your will over to the care of God, what you think gonna happen? I bet you won't be the same. I bet you're gonna see the change. I bet you're gonna know He there. I bet you He gonna help you out when nobody else will. Surrendering and willingness. I had to change. And I'm so grateful that I was introduced to a 12-step program, because the 12-step program has taught me to identify with me and taught us how to identify with ourselves, some things that we still, even today, have to learn to work on and to work through. You know, being in love with the God of my understanding is the best thing that ever happened in my life. Because see, I can go in my room and the kids say, who you talking to? Y'all can't see him, but he right here. Turning our wills and our lives over to the care of God. And why wouldn't you want to turn your will and life over? Because my life was chaotic. So why wouldn't I want to take a chance on the best man in the world to turn my life and my will over to Him? Why wouldn't I? I'm reading, I'm learning in the steps all the difficulties I had, all the things I kept inside of me. That's why I kept getting high. All the forgiveness that I was living on hate. I was living on not forgiving somebody for what they done to me or even what I done to them. So I had to learn to understand the God I'm dealing with. And the God that you deal with is a God that loves you no matter what. Just like they tell us we can't use drugs no matter what. That's the same thing. God ain't going to change on you no matter what. We change on God. And I learned that about that. But if you're always the person that wants something and trying to get something or trying to scheme to get something, then I can see why you don't get the blessings you get. You got to learn how in life to love, to care, to surrender sometimes, keep your mouth closed sometimes. But it ain't just sometimes. It's for me all the time. I will speak up now. I do that. You know, I'm not a person that you can just talk to any kind of way. But it's a better way I react to how you talk to me. I don't hold it. I don't get mad. I just say what I feel. Because for a long time, we as recovering addicts, we didn't say what we feel. We got high. Remember that. We got high. Instead of saying how we felt, we got high. We ran, kept running. So, turning my will and our lives over to the care of God helped us out a lot, tremendously. Because we see the change in ourselves. Just having a commitment and holding on to the God of our understanding and being committed to something, that's a change for us too. If you really want to look at it truthfully, that's a change for us too, because I never was committed to nobody. Even when I was married, I wasn't committed, I was using. I cheated. I did all that. So I had to learn what turning our will and our lives was to God. And I started learning it from step 1 and step 2. And it brought me to 3. I love this step. I was scared of this step because I thought I was going to I thought I was going to turn my will over to God and take it back like I had been doing everything else. But by the time I worked this program and worked this step, I stayed committed. I didn't want to disappoint him over and over again like I had for many years before. I didn't want to disappoint myself. I wanted to show myself that I am worthy of change. I am worthy for forgiveness. I am worthy to forgive. You know, so this step really broke me in a good, peaceful way. Because I got a chance to understand what God truly means. And he's awesome. He'll take you to different heights. He'll take you to different places. And he'll cure you from thinking it and crippling the mind. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, they say. They say the mind is a terrible thing to waste. That's what they say. You know? And, you know, sometimes, you know, I get upset. Sometimes we get upset when we know we've been good to people and we did that, but they don't treat us the same. Let me tell you that. Let me leave you with this. You keep being good to people. Don't you dare stop being good, because that's the goodness in you. Don't you stop being good to people. Don't be like other people. Don't be like other people. Because I was like some of everybody. I didn't like all the peoples I was so much alike. I didn't even like them peoples. So I don't want to be like nobody. I just want to be me. I just want to be different. I just want to be whole. I just want to know that I can still turn and still turning my will and my life over to care of God. Because I won't lose. You won't lose when you turn your will and your life over to the care of God. You know, who would have ever thought I wouldn't be doing drugs today? The way I have been doing drugs 365 days in a year. And that's how many days I got high off of something. If it wasn't crack, it was weed. If it wasn't weed, it was pills. If it wasn't pills, it was something else, cough syrup. I mean, come on now, 365 days out of a year, and every day I smoked or drank or did something for over 30 years. I didn't even understand why I still had a kidney. I didn't understand why I still had lungs. I didn't understand. But now I understand. When I turned my life over to the care of God, God started fixing some things that was already broken in the inside. You know, I mean, seriously. That's a lot of time to be drinking and smoking and getting out. Like, I don't even know how Snoop smoked weed, they say, every day, every night. And he's still smoking. But maybe that's good for him, to relax him. You know, I'm not downing him because I love me some Snoop. But I'm just saying, when you look at people's lives, we have to smoke and depend on something. That means that we still struggling with self. That's why I said what I said. If I got to still be smoking at 30 and 40 years, then that means I'm still struggling with something. And one of them was letting go. And I'm still holding on to an addiction. So I thank God for these 36 years that I've been clean. And I ain't had to fake it till I make it. I ain't had to do nothing. All I had to do was just continue to do what I do. Don't use. That's the cure. My auntie Wanda on here told me, was it Wanda? No, it was one of the girls told me, Renee, I found out what you said wasn't true. This was yesterday. She said, I found the lady that said it is a cure for drugs and alcohol. I said, if that lady tell me it's a cure for drugs and alcohol, some medicine, is you saying medicine? She said, yeah, it's a cure. I said, well, I don't even want to meet her. Because the books I read said the only cure we have is for the addiction is not to use. Talking about this a cure for the drugs and alcohol. I said, okay, I don't want it. I like the cure I got now. Long as I don't pick up, long as I don't use, long as I don't go get it, long as I don't call nobody to bring it to me, that's my cure. I don't care what everybody else's cure is. I know the cure been working for me all this time, so why would I want to change it? I don't want to see nobody here, nobody else that got this cure, got this medicine you can take. You know, it's two people's day. It's two secure things I got in my life that I know I never use again. Long as I don't pick up in the God of my understanding. I don't need no medicine. I don't need none of that. Because it's been working for me and a million other people and a million of my other friends in recovery. Long as we don't use, we ain't got to chase and we ain't got to keep using no more. That's our cure. So anybody who got some medicine, tell them to take it for themselves. Because I don't need it. So for that, you know, I am so grateful for step 3. So next week, you know, we are on step 4. And step 4... Hey, y'all, listen to me say this again. Step 4 is one of the best ones, too, because I had to identify with some things. Boy, I love all these steps. That step 3 was good, though. It was scary for me, like I always said, because I was scared of disappointment and neglecting God because I really didn't know Him. But once I found out about God, then that's when I knew I could turn everything over to God. But next week, Sunday, we will be on step 4. We made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. That step is about self-learning. Why we do what we do. Why we keep playing games. Why we keep taking back our will in our lives. All that's in this step. That's a good step for me, step 4. Bless you. Thank y'all. I love every last one of you. If you haven't told someone that you love them today, please do before you go to bed tonight. It means everything. Not just for them, for you too. Be nice and kind to people. No matter how you feeling or what you're going through, be nice and kind to people. And that shows that you turned your will and your life over to the care of God. See, I can be kind to a person not even being in their presence. That's me being kind to people. I'm not saying nothing ugly. I don't want to start talking about you. I don't want to do none of that. I just stay away until I'm okay. We're going back. So thank God. God bless you. Y'all have a good night. Safe. And I'll see you next week on Friday night at 8 o'clock. Thank you. God bless. I enjoyed each and every last one of y'all that came on this podcast today. And I'm asking God to bless each and every last one of y'all. And I always go back and read your things after I get finished. I don't care how long, how short. I'm going to answer you or say something, thank you or something, just to let you know I appreciate you. And if anybody ever told you that they love you, tell them that Miss Renee says she loves you. Thank you. Good night, y'all. Good night, good night, good night. Now you don't want to go off.